Hi, we are Kimberly and Jay West, Sydney West parents. As many of you know, our daughter went missing on the morning of September 30th, where she was last seen on the Golden Gate Bridge.
There's now a $25,000 reward being offered for any information leading to the return of a missing Bay Area woman.
We are asking anyone who may have information about Sydney to please contact investigators.
It allows you to kind of take back control of who you are. And separate all of that outside noise and that clutter from that true self.
Sydney West was enveloped by fog and then never seen again. It was September the 30th, 2020, just before 7 a.m. This is when 19-year-old Sydney West was last seen. She was captured on blurry security footage approaching San Francisco's Golden Gate Bridge. She was wearing a teal hoodie, dark leggings, and tropical print slip-on Vans. Her hair was tied in a loose bun. She looked just like any other early morning runner, except just a few minutes later, she was gone. No witnesses, no phone calls. The iconic bridge was packed with early rush hour traffic, cyclists, joggers, commuters, but not one person called 911. Not one person said they saw a young woman climb the railing, and no surveillance camera captured it either. A black backpack, later confirmed to be hers, was found nearby, but Sydney, she had vanished. By the way, this is Dark Case, and you can call me Jack. I bring you rare and unseen true crime cases, as well as other things that you may later regret knowing, with multiple uploads every single week. So if all of that sounds like your kind of thing, then make sure you join the Dark Case family now by hitting subscribe and making sure all notifications are turned on. And now for today's silly little question. What is your go-to breakfast? Let me know down in the comments. And a quick update for you as well, the Dark Case Patreon is now no more. However, I have created some new tiers here on YouTube memberships, so there are new perks including exclusive videos, as well as a behind the scenes podcast that I record in my car in a cemetery. No, I'm not joking. But now, on with the video. On the evening of September the 29th, 2020, Sydney West had a long phone call with her father, Jay. It wasn't just a quick call either, nor was it something out of the ordinary. Jay later said, "We talked for a long time, a couple of hours. We talked a lot about loving each other. I fully expected to talk to her the next day, but that call would never come." The following morning, Wednesday, September the 30th, Sydney ordered a rideshare to Crissy Field, a wide grassy park beneath the Golden Gate Bridge. She'd been there many times before to exercise and to take photos. According to the police, that driver was interviewed. They were fully cooperative, and they were not in any way considered a suspect. Sydney arrived there at around 6:45 a.m, and the air that morning was thick with fog and smoke from California's wildfire season, as it clung to the horizon like a shroud. There were dozens, if not hundreds of people in that area. Cyclists, birdwatchers, and joggers packed the bridge, even at that early hour. Yet, somehow, nobody remembers seeing her after she stepped onto that bridge. According to private investigator Scott Dudek, who reviewed the CCTV footage from that morning, he said it was extremely crowded, it was foggy, but she kind of disappears into the fog. That surveillance footage, which has never been released to the public, it shows Sydney walking eastbound towards a bridge, and then nothing. The camera's visibility fades with the poor weather, and Sydney is just swallowed up by the fog. There is no footage that shows her turning around, no footage that shows her leaving the bridge on the other side. Her black backpack was later recovered nearby, reportedly tucked out of view along with her water bottle. This detail continues to confuse many, because if Sydney planned to return, then why hide the bag? And if she didn't, why leave the bag behind at all? Because really, what would she be trying to save? Even after all this time, that small gesture of dropping the bag, it remains one of the biggest clues in this case. It's also the last physical act that we can presume that she herself was known to make. To understand why Sydney's disappearance felt so sudden, strange, and just wrong, we have to understand who she was. Born on July the 11th, 2001, Sydney Caitlin West grew up in Pleasanton, California, before her family relocated to Chapel Hill, North Carolina in 2017. She was described as goofy, creative, and fiercely compassionate. Her mother said that Sydney made their lives brighter just by being herself. She loved the outdoors, music, and animals. So much so that she convinced her mother to start a compost heap. She had a deep connection to the environment and a soft spot for open mic nights. At them, she'd sing and play piano, often performing her own original songs. In high school, she was a varsity volleyball captain, both in California and North Carolina. She later took up beach volleyball, excelling there too. She wasn't just athletic, she was a high achiever overall. She had ambitions that revolved around science, medicine, and business. Behind all of this, Sydney was also deeply sensitive. After graduating from Scarborough High School in 2019, she took a gap year in Australia, where, according to her own posts, she began to struggle with depression and anxiety, saying that things that had been manageable now became harder to mask. In August of 2020, she moved back to California. This was to begin her freshman year at UC Berkeley. But things didn't go as planned. She suffered a serious concussion that summer, and with the pandemic forcing classes online, she found herself unable to keep up. Her mother later said she wasn't supposed to be doing any screen time, but everything was virtual, and she just said she couldn't do it. So Sydney withdrew from the semester, planning to restart in fall of 2021. Until then, she stayed with family friends in the Bay Area. She spent her time exploring the city, playing music, and trying to find her footing again. By all accounts though, she was still struggling. But no one, not even her closest family, believed that she would just disappear on her own accord.
I think that we always have so many thoughts swirling through our heads about, I've dealt with anxiety, I've dealt with OCD. Like I'm aware that you're always thinking thoughts, and being able to kind of label that and say like, hey, that's like a thought that I'm having right now, or hey, that's a feeling. Having that conscious thought is really, really empowering, because it allows you to kind of take back control of who you are, and separate all of that outside noise and that clutter from that like true self that we talk about, and that I think a lot of people have never quite experienced.
As the day of September the 30th progressed, Sydney's family began to worry. Her father had been expecting that follow-up phone call. So when it didn't come, he sent text messages. He called again, but he got nothing. According to the family and everyone that knew her, this was completely out of character. By October the 1st, 24 hours after she was last seen, parents Jay and Kimberly West reported her missing to police in Orange County, North Carolina. Since Sydney's legal residence was still in Chapel Hill, the missing persons case had to start there, before then being immediately transferred to the San Francisco Police Department.
Really scary story here, Liz. There is a woman, a student from Chapel Hill, studying at the University of California, Berkeley, and she's now missing this morning.
Yeah, this is Sydney West. She moved to the San Francisco area back in August, but family and friends of the 19-year-old haven't had any contact with her since Wednesday. She was reportedly last seen in downtown San Francisco near the Golden Gate Bridge. Orange County deputies are asking anyone in North Carolina who may have had contact with her to give them a call.
The next day, October 2nd, 2020, the SFPD issued a public appeal. They confirmed that she had last been seen on the Golden Gate Bridge just before 7 a.m, and they classified her as an at-risk missing person. That same day, the family received heartbreaking news. This was when they found her backpack near the bridge. We do know that inside was a laptop, but the rest of the contents have never been publicly disclosed. But investigators did reveal that no note was found. Another chilling detail is that Sydney's cell phone and headphones were never recovered. But even though they were never found, there was also been no activity of any kind on her account since that morning. No phone calls, no text messages, no social media, and no bank transactions. It was as if her existence had been erased right there on the bridge. In the early days, Sydney's case generated a flurry of activity. The San Francisco Police Department launched a missing persons investigation through their Special Victims Unit. Sydney's information was quickly entered into the National Crime Information Center database. Within 48 hours, the case had caught the attention of local media, as well as the public at large. Flyers went up around the Bay Area. Family and friends flooded social media with pleas for help. Even strangers touched by Sydney's story joined the efforts to spread the word of her case. This is when Sydney's family hired private investigator Scott Dudek. He is a former law enforcement officer who specializes in complex missing persons cases.
Her parents said Sydney liked visiting the Golden Gate Bridge, and cameras on the bridge recorded her the morning she disappeared. However, there was heavy fog that morning that obscured being able to see what happened to her.
You know, that morning that Sydney was on the bridge, there was a lot of people that were near her. I know this because I reviewed the video. So we absolutely believe that somebody must know something.
Anyone with information about Sydney's whereabouts is asked to contact private investigator Scott Dudek at this phone number. I'm Amy Larson reporting for Cron 4 News from Pleasanton.
Dudek reviewed surveillance video from multiple angles, from around Crissy Field and the Golden Gate Bridge, footage that has otherwise never been made public. He described the area as extremely crowded. It was foggy, but she kind of disappears into the fog. That fog would become a critical part of the case, and so was a wildfire smoke that had blanketed much of Northern California that week. Visibility on the bridge that morning was severely limited, and so the combination of fog and smoke created enough interference to make it impossible to track Sydney's movements after she stepped onto the bridge. To this day, the SFPD has refused to release any of that footage. When asked, they cite security concerns and the integrity of the investigation, but many, including Sydney's parents, believe that releasing the video could trigger new tips or leads. Her mother, Kimberly, said, "There were a lot of people on the bridge that morning. Someone must have seen something." Yet, despite the traffic, both pedestrians and cars and trucks, no witnesses ever came forwards to say that they saw a girl matching Sydney's description do anything suspicious. No one reported seeing her stop, no one saw her climbing the rail, and not a single 911 call was made from the bridge that morning. This all leads to the unsettling question. If Sydney had chosen to opt out that morning, how did no one at all see anything? And if she didn't, then where did she go? Did she possibly catch a lift? Or did someone take her?
A vigil tonight in North Carolina for a woman who disappeared in San Francisco. The family of 19-year-old Sydney West streamed the event on Facebook Live this evening. West has not been heard from since September 30th.
Family and friends of 19-year-old Sydney West held this vigil in Chapel Hill. About 100 people showed up, many getting very emotional as they prayed for her to find her way back home.
Over time, this case has become less about what was found and kind of more about what wasn't, because no body has ever been recovered. While the Golden Gate Bridge is tragically known as a frequent location for people to opt out, sorry I've got to use this language by the way, with an estimated 1,800 people doing so to date, there are usually witnesses, or at least some sort of visual confirmation. But in Sydney's case, there was none. And remember, her cell phone was never found as well, so it's been theorized that she may have done this with it in her possession, and it ended up submerged in the bay. However, why would she take her cell phone if she chose to leave her other possessions on the bridge? Her mother has publicly said that when she tried to check Sydney's location on her phone that morning, the location was off. So had Sydney turned that off herself? Was the phone switched off altogether? Or was the phone still on? Or had she or somebody intentionally disabled it to prevent Sydney from being tracked? I must admit that I do find it weird that she left the backpack, which could be returned back to her family, but not the phone. It's also worth noting that the contents of that laptop have never been disclosed. I mean, it is possible that the answers to this case are within that device. Had she looked up statistics from the bridge? Had she investigated jump locations? Maybe she'd been researching how to disappear. Had she met someone new? Authorities have never confirmed any of this, which is again frustrating. But what we do know is that digitally, Sydney's footprint ended on September the 30th. Also worth noting is that she didn't bring anything that will suggest that she planned to start a new life elsewhere. As far as we know, there was no change of clothes. There was no travel gear, no wallet, no passport. Just a backpack left behind, and the phone vanished.
It's about 7:30 in the morning. In about 3 hours, at 10:37, we're going to celebrate your birth. Which up to that point, it was the best day of my life. 20 years ago. There have been many good times since then. Great times. We're out on the island as a family, as we were with you last summer. It's beautiful, like it was last summer. But there's a big piece missing, and that's you. I don't know where you are, or if you're even gone. I know that I don't know. I'm your dad, and I'm not going to stop looking until I know. If you're out there, raise your hand. Get help. If you're somebody that knows Sid, or you think you see her, please report it to Scott Dudek, a private investigator. You still have the reward available. And in the end, we want our girl home with us. Find your way home, Sid. We all love you so much. Happy birthday.
As time went on though, dozens of tips did pour in. Sightings, or at least rumours. A fruit truck worker who claimed to have seen her. This included a fruit truck worker who claimed to have seen Sydney, but that lead nor any others have led anywhere. Her father Jay summed up the family's agony. Lots of people have said, well, it's obvious what happened. But, knowing my daughter, how much she loved her sister, her family, all the things she had ahead of her, I just find it hard to believe she would leave all that.
She was 19 and incredibly intelligent, and she was funny, and she was athletic, and she was incredibly caring.
But Jay and Kimberly West say their daughter Sydney's transition to her freshman year at her dream school, UC Berkeley, was difficult for her during the height of COVID.
She was, is a wonderful human being. She's also a human being that struggled with anxiety and depression, and it got a hold of her.
Jay spoke with Sydney on the phone the night before she disappeared.
What was your last conversation like with her?
She was sad. She told me she loved me. And I told her she had a mountain of people that loved her.
The next morning, September 30th, 2020, cameras on the Golden Gate Bridge captured her there. But because of the fog, they lost sight of her.
There were a lot of people on the bridge, though. There's people walking, running, biking, driving. So the fact that all of our pleas to the public and all of the information out there, nobody has seen anything is just so baffling to us.
But thousands of miles away, here in Western New York, people want to help. Pastor Steve Bigner of St. Paul's Lutheran Church in Eggertsville went to Amherst High School with Sydney's mom, and he's leading a 100-mile bike ride Friday in Sydney's honor. And Sydney's dad is coming here to ride along.
When you're tired, you're not as tired as he is. So it'll make the pedaling a little easier, knowing that Sydney's dad's riding along with us.
From pretty much the beginning, The official theory was that she chose to do this to herself. That's the San Francisco Police Department's view anyway. For many, this does seem like a logical, although heartbreaking conclusion. But arguably the details don't quite add up. Because remember, not one person on the bridge that morning reported seeing anyone in distress, let alone Sydney. There were no 911 calls. There was no splash, no yell, no sound at all. Nothing that made people turn their heads or look. That in itself is pretty rare. Studies and documentaries about the Golden Gate Bridge, they all confirm that most jumpers hesitate once they get there. They linger. Some sit or stand on the railings for minutes or sometimes hours. They may cry or pace or talk to passers-by or authorities. And if someone does climb over, witnesses usually would notice. So in Sydney's case, if she did climb that railing, she did it very fast, unseen, unheard and uninterrupted. Which does make you wonder, did she at all? The placement of her backpack also raises questions. According to available information, she first jogged onto the bridge and then doubled back, removed the backpack and tucked it out of view, before returning onto the bridge once more. But then we have to ask, why leave the backpack at all and why bother hiding it? Private investigator Scott Dudek, after reviewing the security footage, told Fox News, "You would think if somebody went and crawled up on the rails, with all those people and bike riders, somebody would have either called or tried to come forward. That never happened." Some Reddit users have speculated that Sydney may have waited for a moment when the bridge had a blind spot, a moment where joggers and cyclists couldn't clearly see ahead. But that window would have been extremely short. We also have to recognise that if she did make it down to the water, she almost definitely wouldn't make it, being carried out by strong currents like many before her. Some believe that's why she hasn't been found. Others believe the reason she hasn't been found is because she's still alive. And as almost always happens in these cases, theories of human trafficking rear their heads. In the years since her disappearance, Sydney's family has never stopped searching. They've worked with law enforcement, volunteers, media outlets and their private investigator. They've offered up and then expanded their reward, which is now up to $25,000, for any information that could lead to her return. They've held vigils in California and North Carolina. They've shared memories. They've posted updates. And they continue to speak her name. Her father's message remains simple. We pray every day that you're out there, and by the grace of God, by some miracle, you come home to us alive.
Hey, Sid. It's September 28th. In less than 24 hours on September 29th, at 4 p.m. Eastern was the last time I spoke with you. It's been a year. A year without somebody that you cherish is so hard. So I came down here with Mom. Maybe we could find a bit of peace in this most difficult of weeks. So I was trying to think about some things that I could do to honor your being. And one of the moments of absolute joy was watching you learn to get dive certified and seeing the wonder of what's underneath the surface of the water. And so tomorrow I'm gonna go diving with some friends. And I know I'll be thinking about you the whole time. Because those are things that we should enjoy together. The moment you were born, you became inseparable to my soul. That will never change. And so, we pray every day that you're out there, and by the grace of God, by some miracle, you come home to us alive. We love you so much. I've said it a million times.
Find your way home, girl. We love you, and you're inseparable to all of our souls. I love you.
Today, Sydney West's case remains open. There is still no body. There is also no evidence of foul play, and only small clues left behind. Be careful out there, and I'll see you soon.